All right, coaches, we're going to be looking at and talking about the handstand push-up, or the strict handstand press-up. Looking at the mastery of movement, we take the vertical pressing position from our pike press to our box handstand press-up to our wall-facing strict handstand press-up. From there, we can add deficits to either the box or the wall. So we're playing with the range of motion that we're traveling and strengthening that extended range, and then coming out and building that skill into a freestanding strict handstand press-up. And then finally, we can look to add that deficit again with something like our parallettes. So there's a big, long list of movements that we can use to progress towards, and they all have relative shapes and movements that we need to maintain to be successful and progress through in each. So the handstand push-ups are a funny one, because there's a lot of different ways that coaches like to coach this or allow athletes to use the progressions up on the wall, whether it's stacking plates or adding ab mats together to reduce the range of motion. Personally, I don't think it's effective or efficient at all at getting guys up and limiting range of motion. They're far better off to be utilizing the box. It's a hard task to get athletes that are used to getting up on the wall to come back to the box, but we can make this super, super challenging. And if we're maintaining the correct positions, it should be really, really difficult. So again, going back to those deficits, being able to hit like a parallel box handstand press up with a tempo, 3 seconds down, dead stop, and then pressing out. Usually that, for me as a coach, is a really clear indicator that they're probably adequately strong enough to get up and complete a handstand press up on the wall. Up until that point, I will get guys just working through eccentrics. I'll get them working through different deficits and bits and pieces on the box before we ever get to the wall. Just for safety reasoning, but also just to build the movement consistency. As soon as we get upside down on the wall, things tend to change a little bit. We get a little bit dumber, and the movements sort of go out the window a little bit. So building that consistency here, super, super important. So looking back at our first positioning, we've got our pike press. So just considering with this, we've got athletes that are probably strong enough to work through a regular toe position press up. That gives them enough pressing strength to probably be able to come out and safely complete our pike press. In saying that though, we can still drill this with eccentrics, keeping it relatively safe. We can use an ab mat for athletes to bring our head down to, so we're not at risk of sort of running and head bombing into the floor here. So for that pike press, what we want to see is our setup position. We want to go at our fingertip to our hand, and then hand on where our elbow was. So that gives us a really, really strong, stable position to press from. Again, with our handstand push-up, it's something a lot of us do to reduce the range and make it a little bit easier. We bring those hands really wide, okay? We want to build the strength through the appropriate range. So here, at that distance between my elbow to fingertip. So we want to look at our rotation. So talking those triceps, thinking about like our press up and our bench press. We want to try and break the bar. We want to rotate forward through the elbow pits in our press up. It's exactly the same on the pike press. So what I'll get my guys to do first is we'll find our pike position, we'll press up. And I want my guys to press away as much as they can through the floor. So that would be similar to a horizontal pressing position on our push-up, to press into their thoracic spine. So we're going to press away as much as we can, and then we're going to rotate and break. And that would be, in comparison to our press-up, going into our scapula being squeezed together from our thoracic press. So I'll demo that. So, two different things going on there. I'm looking to break forward. So as I rotate and torque my triceps, my elbow pits are coming forward, and that is going to help me stabilize and be able to maintain a vertical forearm position as I travel down, but it also initiates the movement into the tripod. So I start breaking forward and shifting forward on my toes and bring my head down towards the floor. So again. And then I come back down. So I'm not worried for newer athletes to the pike press about the pressing out portion. It's about controlling that eccentric. And as I mentioned before, we can add the ab mat there for a little bit of safety as well. But a 3 to 5 second eccentric is going to be more than enough for these guys to be working through. Thinking about that cue, squeezing those elbows together. So as I'm going down, I'm looking to maintain that rotation that I initiated my movement with, and I'm thinking about locking those elbows in together as I'm traveling down. Again, common fault we see on the handstand press up is those elbows flare out. Takes our loading away through the appropriate points of our shoulders and puts a lot of shear loading in through our shoulder joint. So super weak pressing position, and if we think about adding a deficit to our movement, it's not relative to traveling into a deficit or traveling into a tripod. So we get jammed up really narrow, head, hands, and hands, where in reality we want that tripod position, head, hand, head, hand. So we're creating a really nice triangle shape, which is really, really stable. Thinking about that mastery of movement, we get to our freestanding handstand press up, we need to find that stable position at the bottom, meeting our tripod, to be able to press out from. We're not going to be able to do it from a really narrow position between our head and hands. So focusing on that with your athletes, really drilling that tripod position, looking at that rotation, and building consistency and some eccentrics on that pike press. Obviously, once we've got that adequate strength, we can work through pressing out and lowering back down. These pike presses are going to be super, super challenging when they're done correctly. We're bringing those hips up high, trying to stack our hips as far over the shoulders as we can while keeping those legs straight. So a few different things that we can really work on here to drill consistency with our athletes on this floor position before we even get to the box. So thinking about that, the box position, 30-inch height is great. Like for most heights of people, it allows us to keep our hamstrings locked out. So it loads less through the hammies as we're in less of a pike position for our guys. If you're a little bit of a shorter athlete, the 24-inch is going to be sweet. But for most of us, it's a 30-inch, okay? So when I'm getting set up from here and I'm getting my athletes set up, I want to get like about a 2-foot distance. So if we measured that out, it's about a 2-foot distance away from the box. And that allows them to keep their feet in placement of the middle of the box. So it's a little bit safer rather than being further back and having the risk of the feet slipping off the box. So I'm going to come into my position here, about 2 feet away, press away and break. Press away and break. So really great drill to work on with your guys of getting inverted, being upside down on that box, and working on that press away where we want to finish each of our reps and then breaking and initiating that movement. Okay, so I'm just going to demo a full range of motion on our box handstand press up now. So very similar to my pike press, I'm traveling forward into my tripod position. I'm keeping those elbows rotated in, so I'm working hard on keeping my lats switched on and engaged. My rotator cuff's taking a little bit of loading there as well, working hard on screwing those elbows in. My head makes contact, I'm still pressing hard through the floor. So at that bottom position, if we were to pause, I want you to think about giving your athletes a cue of sort of 65 to 70% of the weight through the hands, the remainder through the head. So we're staying balanced, but we've still got active pressing through the hands. From there, as I press out, I'm looking to follow that same path back up and then finish back into that active press away. Cue that I like to use on that is face to box. So as we press, we finish head through, just like we would do with the barbell strict pressing, head through, pressing hard through the floor. And then we initiate that movement through that break again. So building consistency here, adding plates, increasing range of motion, adding tempos, eccentrics. From there we can go to the wall. Once they meet that standard, parallel down to an ab mat, 3 second lower, dead stop at the bottom and press out. Things to think about when we are looking at pressing out from the bottom position is we see with a lot of athletes the rib cage flare. So we break through that rib cage and it's a really inefficient pressing position, and we'll really see our athletes exposed when we get onto the wall with that instability. When that rib cage breaks, our feet will usually come off the wall. So here, focusing on squeezing out of that bottom position and even applying tension from that bottom hold. If we came down to a dead stop or a tempo hold at the bottom of the handstand press up, we press up slightly and hold that isometric and work on keeping that rib cage locked down. So just something to really be mindful of is those little positional things that will have a knock-on effect when we get up onto the wall. So rib cage locked down, trying to keep your feet together, knees together, so creating tension through that lower body as well, relative to when we do get up on the wall. When we do find that wall position, same hand width as we went through on our pike press, we've built consistency with on our box handstand press up. We're going to press away as hard as we can, and then we're going to break forward. We're going to travel forward into that tripod, keeping those elbows squeezed together, rib cage stays locked down, glutes are working hard, knees and feet are locked out together. Same exact positions, and that's why I really love this box handstand press up. It's super relatable to my wall facing strict handstand press up, which is by far the better strict handstand push up option than facing away as we've traditionally done in CrossFit. It just encourages a much better position relative to coming out to a freestanding handstand press up. So always training with that mastery of movement in mind. That sets us up for success and holding ourselves as coaches to enforcing a higher standard of movement. Encouraging our athletes to move better is just going to help them shift that needle forward every time they come into the gym. So handstand press up progression, pike press, box handstand press up, wall facing handstand press up, and then encourage them and challenge them with some freestanding stuff. And usually as we progress through the chain, we'll see little inefficiencies of movement, bits and pieces with our athletes that we really can address. And a lot of the time, pull back to the box, get them on the box and get them addressing those little things.
Thank you for watching, and if you found that helpful and you want more of this kind of content, we have literally hundreds of videos just like this, from practical tips and tricks to theory to everything in between, all in the knowledge. And if you want to learn from me directly and our cohort of level 4 staff members, then we also have the Knowledge Pro, which we do weekly calls and live interaction and homework and everything else in between. If you want any more information or would like to have a free trial of the knowledge, please click the link in the description below and get after it.